Yo guys, my name is Phoenix and welcome to a new video. And today we got some really big news. Cygames just announced that they're going to change 5 or more cards, and the big thing is that this includes legendaries. So for the first time since beta, they're going to change legendaries. So I thought this would be a very interesting topic for a video, and I'm going to discuss here what I think will be changed and how. So let's not waste any time and start with Tove. And Tove is definitely my most hated card of this expansion. Going second against a Blood with Tove on turn 2 made it almost impossible to win the matchup, and that's such a stupid concept that I just can't wait for this card to be changed. How? Well, if I have to make a prediction, I think the ideal change for this card would be making it a 3-2. Because if this card were a 3-2, it wouldn't make trades with other 2-drops so one-sided, and it would still be a decent card because it would be able to kill some 3-drops such as Grimnir, but it wouldn't be as powerful as it is right now. Next we have Goblin Leader, and when reviewing this card I didn't think this would be much of a big deal. I didn't think this card was too good, and in fact this card is nothing special when going second. The problem is that when going first, this can snowball really hard, and since this is one of those cards that make going first so much better than going second, I think this is part of the problem and it has to be changed. And if I had to change this card, I would make it so that the effect is a fanfare that summons a Goblin. That way it's still on the exact same power level as an Ascetic Knight, but it's better for neutral synergies and worse for the officer commander synergies. Next we have Big Knuckle Bodyguard, and I'm not going to lie, when I first read this card I honestly thought it was a mistranslation, because this card is such a huge and broken card that I didn't think they would ever print it. Strong 4-drops with evolve effect were meant to balance the game for the player going second. So why in the world does this card have a Priest of the Cudgel effect but as a fanfare and it can be played when going first? This is such a huge offender for the going first versus going second problem that I have no doubts this will be nerfed. And I get it, they wanted to boost Bloodcraft in Arena, this is why this is a bronze, and this is why this card is on such a high power level. But boosting a class in Take 2 without considering the huge impact it would have in a constructed play is not a good thing. And now the problem is that this card is really hard to nerf without killing it. The change I would make would be so that the effect only procs when you're in Vengeance, but that would be a problem both for Take 2 and most Bloodcraft decks. It could still see play in Blood Moon decks, in fact it would be really good in them, but the power level would change so drastically. I just can't see any other good nerf for this card. Then we have Alice, Wonderland Explorer. And I'm sorry Alice, you really are my favorite card of this expansion, and I even crafted 3 of you before knowing how good the neutral package was, but you are way too strong for this game. Alice has the very same problem as other cards such as Stove, Goblin Leader and Big Knuckle Bodyguard. She's way too good when going first. In fact, this card is nothing special when going second, it's still a pretty strong card, but it's not too hard to deal with. The problem is that when going first, she offers so good value trades that you cannot just justify the existence of this card. So the change I would make would be turning this card into a 5-drop, a 4/5 5-drop. That way it's still a card with a decent power level, because it will still have the full stats of a vanilla card, with still a very good effect, but it would offer your opponent an extra turn to react, especially when going second, because then he would be able to react with his evolution turn, and that's a huge deal. And last but not least, one of the cards I'm pretty sure they're going to nerf is Spawn of the Abyss. And seriously, Spawn of the Abyss is not as broken as it seems, but it's still pretty broken. In a world where people complained about Albert dealing 10 damage to the face on turn 9, the existence of a card that can deal 12 without evolving and 16 by evolving is just too much of a power creep. So how would I nerf it? Well, this is seriously the hardest one to nerf, but I think it should have 5 attack and deal 5 damage with the effect, so that it will deal 10 damage without evolving, and it should evolve into a follower with 6 attack that deals 6 with the effect. And yes, I know this sounds like a very bad nerf, but you have to understand that this card is not so much of a problem right now because it's expected. People have started to tech against it because it's literally everywhere. And this is why, being so predictable, people can play around it. But in a meta in which Bloodcraft is not as strong as it is, and it's not as played as it is, the existence of this card is such a huge threat. And even if you nerf it the way I say they should nerf it, it will still be a very good win condition, especially when played for free by cards like Bandersnatch or Demon Key, or even discounted by Baphomet. And now let's talk about the cards that are fine right now, but they can still be nerfed. I will not predict a nerf for these cards because I think they're fine right now, but I think that talking about them is important because they're still on a pretty high power level. And let's start with Actress Feria. Actress Feria is a very important follower for the neutral package, and it has such a strong evolve effect without paying stats for it that I think that a nerf is not all that unlikely. Scarlet Sabreur. The reason I think Scarlet Sabreur could potentially see a nerf is because maybe Cygames want to lower the power level of the Bloodcraft class by just a little bit without changing too much of the core gameplay it has right now. And if that's the case, they may be going to nerf Scarlet Sabreur instead of, say, a Big Knuckle Bodyguard. Then we have Princess Snow White. This is literally the strongest 2-drop in the game. It can trade very well with pretty much every 2-drop in the game, and even most 3-drops. For example, this card can kill a Grimnir and still surviving. And on top of that, it's extremely good combined with Heavenly Hound. This card just does it all. The Control Havencraft deck usually suffer the early game because they have one of the strongest late game in Shadowverse. And with Snow White, that's no longer the case. They have a very good early game, they have a decent mid game with cards like Priest of the Cudgel or Tribunal, and then they have a huge late game with Themis Decree or Heavenly Aegis. And if the neutral package gets nerfed, Havencraft could potentially go out of hand, and Snow White may need to be nerfed. So this is why I'm predicting it. And last on my list, it's Heavenly Aegis, the ultimate control card. This card has never been a problem, and it has never been in a tier 0 deck, but it's still kind of unfair that a card that cannot be dealt with exists in this game. To be honest, I would not nerf Heavenly Aegis, I would just create some counterplay to it. In my opinion, just like Seraph has Odin to counter it, there should be a pretty bad neutral card that is just meant to counter Heavenly Aegis. For example, an 8 play points for 3 like Odin, but instead of banishing a follower or an amulet, it would set the attack and defense of a follower to 1. It would be a card that pretty much nobody would play, but the fact that it existed would be enough to prevent Aegis decks from getting out of control. Because if it ever became tier 0, people would just be able to deck against it. And this will be it for this video. I know it's a short one, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway, because I really wanted to talk about this topic. And please let me know in the comment section below if you agree with me or if you disagree with me, and how. And if you haven't, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.